think you could help me with? Oh. There's... He cast a quick glance at the door, but there was no one there. There's something else I found down there. A secret, you could say. A secret? The man pulled Don a little closer with the help of the shoulder strap. It's at my place, in Fallon, and if it's possible, I'd really like for you to come up to my house and... His voice died away. Don followed the man's eyes to the doorway, where the presenter was standing and waiting in a light brown suit jacket and a frumpy skirt. So, I see you've gotten to know each other. A stressed smile. Perhaps you two can talk more afterward. She pointed out toward the hallway where a cue light was glowing in red, on the air. This way, Don Titelman. Book 1. 1. Niflheim. With each step, Erik Hall's rubber boots sank deeper into the mud, and his legs were tired, but it couldn't be much farther now. When, through the fog, he could make out the clearing past the last trunks, he came to a halt, and for a moment he felt uncertain. Then he caught sight of the ruins of the old fence. The rotting stumps stuck up like warning fingers in front of the slope down to the opening of the mine shaft. He slid down the incline to the ledge in front of the mouth of the shaft, pulled off his 3 dive bags, and stretched his back. It was cold here, just like yesterday when he had managed to find his way to the abandoned mine for the first time. The heavy pack of tanks with the inflatable buoyancy vest was still lying where he'd left it, and the same horrible, rotten stench was still in the air. The fog had reduced the light to dusk, and it was hard to make out any details as he leaned over the steep shaft. But when his eyes had adjusted, he could make out the supports that started at a depth of about 30 yards. They braced the walls of the shaft, and an image of sparse, blackening teeth flashed by, like looking down into the mouth of a very old person. Erik took a few steps backward and carefully inhaled. The smell seemed to subside as he got farther from the hole. He gave himself a pat on the back. He'd been able to make his way in this darkness and find the right route yet again. There weren't very many people who could pull it off. Anyone could use a GPS navigator to get from Fallon to an address out by Sundborn or Sorgmyra, but finding the right place 3 miles straight out in the wilderness, that was different. Most, in fact all, abandoned mine shafts were supposed to be noted on the maps. The surveyors from the mining inspectorate had seen to that, but this hole had apparently been overlooked. Erik heard a faint buzzing as some flies had started to gather around him. They made their way in curiosity down into his bag to see if there was any food. But in the first bag there were only spools of rope, snap hooks, and bolts, the double-edged titanium knife with a concave and a sawtooth edge, a battery-powered rotary hammer drill, the climbing harness, and the primary dive light that he would fasten to his right dive glove. When Erik had dumped everything out on the yellowed grass, he opened the side pocket of the bag. In it were the Finnish precision instruments in hard cases. He unpacked a depth gauge, which would measure how far down he sank under the surface of the flooded shaft, and a clinometer to estimate the gradients of the mine paths once he got there. The flies had increased in number. They hovered around him like a cloud of dirt. Erik waved the insects away from his mouth, irritated, while taking the regulators and long hoses that would keep him alive out of the next bag and checking the pressure of the tanks. Then he moved backward a few steps, but the cloud of flies followed him. Half standing in the gravel, he pulled off his green rubber boots, then his camouflage pants and his windbreaker. With bugs crawling across his face and neck, he opened the cover of the last bag. Under dive computers and a headlamp waited the bulky wetsuit and the rubber-like skin of the dry suit, glossy black, 3-layered laminate fabric specially developed for diving in 40-degree Fahrenheit water. He pulled on the full-cover neoprene hood. Now the flies could reach only his eyes and the upper part of his